Hey friends, Cherie here. Welcome to the gardening channel, Gardening at Home with Cherie. Today I'm here to share with you all some of my favorite cherry tomatoes. I think I may have thrown in a pear tomato or two as well. But these are all cherry tomatoes that I've grown before in my garden, some for one season, some for multiple seasons, and they have been my favorite, my most prolific. And I want to make sure that I get these sown first so that they're ready to go out into the garden as soon as it is safe. So I have two seeds that are from Botanical Interest. I got these last year and grew them out in the garden. And at the end of this video, I will remember to put in some images of these different tomatoes from my garden and my garden harvest as well. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, this chocolate sprinkle pole cherry tomato was very prolific, very delicious, very sweet. And actually all these cherry tomatoes that I'm showing you, they grew and they produced all season long in my garden, like right up until the last frost. I was just picking cherry tomatoes. So anyway, this one here, it says here, it is a 50 to 55 day from transplanting. And of course, tomatoes are not frost tolerant, so you need to be planting these after your last frost date in spring, okay? But yeah, very high yield. I had no issues whatsoever with these plants. They're really wonderful tomatoes, and I am very excited about growing these for a second time outdoors. The next one that's also from, whoops, I gotta put this in an envelope. When you get your seed packets from Botanical Interest, at least this last year, the seeds, they come in a separate little envelope that's kind of glued to the booklet. And then inside the booklet is tons and tons of information. I do love this about them, but I have to keep these in little plastic bags so that my seeds stay with my envelope. So I've just taken them out to show you, but the packets are also labeled with the seeds. But just wanted to point that out since the packet fell out. But anyway, this is the Indigo Rose Pole Cherry Tomato. Last year was also the first time that I grew these. These also, they're so pretty, so pretty. This phase here where you see the yellow at the bottom, this is when it was actually unripened, and then it has the black shoulder with the red when it's ripened. At least that's how it was for me. But really beautiful and delicious, and yeah, just very pretty in the garden. And the remaining of the seed packets that I'm going to share with you are from Baker's Creek. I do have a few that I'm going to pull that are from other companies, but they're companies that don't put pictures on their packets. So I'll share those in a future video once I'm transplanting them out and I have more time to dig up the pictures, because it is kind of nice to see what the vegetables and fruits look like. So this one here is called the Evil Olive. I finally got this one into the garden last year. I had the seeds for, yeah, I got them for 2023. And I can't remember if I grew them and lost the seedling or what. But last year was the first year that I actually got to eat them. And I really like them. Again, I like tomatoes as long as they're flavorful. So it's hard for me to find a tomato that I don't like unless it has a weird texture. So I will have that disclaimer. So these, I put these in here as cherry tomatoes because mine were a little small. It looks like they can get a little bit bigger, but they grow in little clusters. It says here plum-sized fruit. Mine were not plum-sized fruits last year. And again, that could have been, last year was a little bit of a wonky tomato season for me. So it could have just been like a watering issue. I don't know. But mine fell more into like a large cherry tomato size, so I'm grouping them with my cherry tomatoes. And I sow my seeds in groups so that when I transplant them, like I know these are all cherry tomatoes when I transplant them out. I do grow my cherry tomatoes in containers in the garden, in grow bags, in pots. I don't grow cherry tomatoes in my raised beds. I save those spaces for the big tomatoes. So anyway, these are the evil olive tomatoes. I get things because of the way they look. They're interesting, and I like to have rare seeds. So this one here says 75 days after transplanting. It says here it ripens slowly, starting out olive green and lightening up to red streaks, with red streaks when ripe. And so I do appreciate this kind of information because some of these can be hard to know, especially, 4 years ago, my first year growing a lot of these things. It's hard to know exactly when things are ripe. So sometimes you might pick something too early and you feel like, oh, this is sour, because it is colorful and it looks beautiful. But when it still has the yellow stripes on it and not red, it's not ripe yet. So, yeah. Just be aware of that when you're growing some of these things. Sometimes, like I said, the packet shows you what it looks like when it's unripened, not when it's ripened. And again, I will put some images in at the end of the video. And I think this year, as I document my garden, I'll try to share a lot of these so you can see them growing in the garden. So this is the evil olive cherry tomato, or evil olive tomato. I'm grouping it as a cherry. This is one of few pear tomatoes. I grew another pear tomato. Oh, I can't remember the name, but you'll see it when I'm going to do, I recorded a lot of videos last season that I didn't edit and share. And so I'm going to put those together on this new gardening channel. So you can see some of that, but they were really big pear tomatoes. This one, so it was like a big tomato that was a pear shape. This one is really a small pear tomato. So that's why I'm putting them here with the cherry tomatoes. And this one is the chocolate pear tomato. I love all the chocolate tomatoes, those kind of dark black, purple tomatoes. This one was very prolific, very, very good. And again, it just fruited and fruited and fruited throughout the season. And it's just pretty. It really was a really beautiful tomato plant. This next one I'm going to share is the Sungold Select 2. I have bought in the past, it's one of the few tomato plants that I've bought from the nursery, the Sungold tomato. And I bought the Sungold and I bought the super sweet 100 tomatoes as plants. This one here is the Sungold Select 2. And I grew this last year and it performed. It says here 70 to 80 days after transplanting is when you should be able to harvest. It says here, this is a selection from the regular Sungold tomato by German tomato breeder Reinhard Kraft. It is one of the tastiest orange cherry tomatoes out there. This selection may occasionally produce red fruit. And I really enjoyed this tomato. Really, really good. Grew all of these that I'm showing just grew. My big tomatoes didn't grow as well as they typically do. They were very late. These cherry tomatoes were early in the season and just performed all season long. So I'll be planting even more cherry tomatoes this year than I did last year. Okay, so this next one is the Hartman's. This next one is the Hartman's yellow gooseberry tomato. And it's just a pretty, normal yellow cherry tomato. So yeah, got that for mainly its color, but it really was delicious. And I like cherry tomatoes that grow in clusters like that. And that ripen. These actually ripened in clusters for the most part, which is nice because then you can just go in there and cut off a branch and have a nice bunch of cherry tomatoes for your salad. This one is an old favorite, one of the first cherry tomatoes that I grew in my garden back in 2020. And I probably need to get some more seeds. Yeah, see, this is a 2020 seed pack if you look up at the date. This is called the winter grape tomato. It's an old Italian tomato, flavorful like Romas, but really good. And these are really good, dry, dehydrated. And I still actually have some of these in my freezer. A lot of the cherry tomatoes, the smaller tomatoes, I just pop them off, get them cleaned and dried, and I get them preserved by just freezing them. And they make a great sauce in the winter just to add to stews. And this is one of them that I do that with. But really, really delicious, classic tomato. The Rosella is also a really classic red cherry tomato, one of the ones that I grew back in 2020 also. This one says here, bred for superior flavor by gourmet genetics. It has massive trusses of pink purple cherries with a smoky blush, half-inch fruit, superb, fresh or cooked. And this is true for those. Again, they grow with a lot of tomatoes and big trusses, and so it's just a nice, easy cherry tomato to harvest. I usually just eat these right out in the garden. These don't usually make it into the house very much. But again, I think I do try to save a bag of each cherry just so I can enjoy them in the winter. But really big producers. This is just a fun cherry tomato, Berry's Crazy Cherry. I've never got a truss with quite that many tomatoes on it, but this is another one that does grow like in big clusters. So again, you can just go snip off a branch and have like 30 cherry tomatoes on it that are actually mostly ripened. And then if I have a cluster where some aren't, I just pull those off and they'll continue to ripen like tomatoes do indoors. But yeah, really delicious, really pretty. I like these because of the big clusters. I grew these out on the outer border of one of my vegetable gardens, the one that sits in full sun. And I had this in a grow bag and I trellised the branches up the fencing and they poked through the outside. And so they were really easy to harvest just standing outside the garden. And again, they just produced and produced when it was rainy, when it was sunny. Again, we had just a crazy weather summer. And I was harvesting from these tomatoes all season long. So I will definitely continue to grow these. I think in 2023 when I grew them, again, I think this was I lost a lot of seedlings, a whole tray of seedlings in a heat wave that came through. So I think this was one that I started, but I didn't actually get to grow and taste. Because I feel like last year was the first year that I really was harvesting off of these. This is an old tried and true. Again, I've grown this a couple years. Really beautiful tomato. For me in my garden, it's one of the later cherry tomatoes. I love all the Bumblebee tomatoes. But this one in particular, I feel like they grow and they fruit, but for me, it's one, and again, it could be the position that I had it in the garden, but it was one of the later ones to actually ripen. But I love these. These are a little bit thicker, a little thicker skinned than some of the other Bumblebee tomatoes, but really, really beautiful. These are some where often actually I harvest them before they're fully ripened and I bring them indoors to finish ripening. Just because I want to get them off the plant so that more of the blossoms can fruit and I can get more fruit off of that. Anyway, this Bosque Blue Bumblebee tomato says that it's 75 days after transplant, 2-inch blue orbs maturing to a golden yellow with blue shoulders. So exactly, they're stunning. Bosque Blue Bumblebee tomato. Here's another one that starts really deep blue and then it kind of lightens as it ripens. The blue cream berries tomato. Really sweet, really delicious. This is one that I got messed up with harvesting too late. So sometimes they were a little bit over ripened when I got them, which is fine. They go into sauces. But the timing of some of these kind of blue and yellow cherry tomatoes can be a little tricky. But I've grown these since 2020. So all my seasons here in my Minnesota garden, and I love them and I will continue to grow them. It says here, stunning cream amber cherries with purple blue splashes on the shoulders, delicate, complex flavor, and prolific. And they really are delicious. Is for me, the texture changes a little bit when they get a little bit over ripened. They get really juicy, which they're still delicious, but I like to have still a little bit of bite in my cherry tomatoes, if you know what I mean. So anyway, that's just me staying on top of harvesting at the right time. This is one of my most prolific cherry tomatoes, the black cherry tomato. I think I still have a couple bags of black cherry tomatoes in my freezer from like 2022. But they last, and these make some of the best tomato sauces from frozen. They have just a really great flavor. It says here, a long time favorite, beautiful cherries resemble large, dusky purple-brown grapes. Classic, rich black tomato flavor. So yeah, if you like those dark tomatoes, I think you would like this black cherry. Here's a really beautiful tiger tomato. This one is called the Lucky Tiger. And this is like an elongated cherry tomato. They're so beautiful. Really delicious. They're gorgeous mixed with other cherry tomatoes in a salad. It says here, an exciting new class of elongated cherry tomatoes. Dark green fruits with red striping, gets high marks for flavor. Tangy, yeah, they're a little bit more like tangy, citrusy. Not sour, but definitely tangy. A little sweet. I really like them fresh. I've never cooked with these. I just toss these into salads, or I just eat them fresh as a snack when I'm in the garden. But they really are beautiful. And then here's another tiger tomato that I grow, the blush tiger tomato. Again, I've been growing these for several years. This is a new pack that I got back in 2021 that I haven't opened yet. I've shared a lot of these tomato seeds too, and saved them so I have a big bag of saved seeds from these because they really are beautiful. So these are called saladette. When they're elongated cherry tomatoes, they're called saladette tomatoes. It says here that glitters and shines with superb flavor to boot. Bred by artisan seeds, this is 2 to 2.5 inch long cocktail type tomato has become a standout favorite in our trials. Okay, so maybe they should technically be with the cocktail tomatoes. I'm gonna do a separate video on cocktail tomatoes. I group these and I grow these with my cherry tomatoes, and I'm gonna stick with that. But it says here, slightly crunchy texture, eye-catching flavor, and perfect balanced flavor. And they're really pretty. They're really pretty. They don't have as big a seed cluster. Like if you look here, seeds are a little bit smaller, but they're really beautiful. And then here is another tiger cherry. This is a mix. And I grew these actually 2 years. I grew these actually out in front of the house. I put up pots with flowers and herbs. And I stuck this cherry tomato in there 2 years in a row because of the color mixture. I do have deer that roam, but in the summertime, they don't really come up to where I have these pots. And so they survive, and they just look really pretty because of the mixture of colors that grow. And I'll probably do the same thing again this year. But it says here, stunning jewel tone colors. And this is called the Tiger Cherry Roma Mix. And it says here, stunning jewel toned colors combine in a translucent quality to give these elongated cherries serious visual appeal. The fruit is similar in shape to a mini Roma, but these taste much better. Some of the best tomatoes ever in taste tests. This is a mix of 3 fantastic colored tiger tomatoes, the pink, the green, and the blush orange. And so, yeah, really beautiful. So if you wanted to separate these, right, to have to grow out all the green, I think Ooh, I need to make a note to do this year. When I save seeds for these, I'm going to save them and separate them. Because I just save them all together and then I just keep having them. I have a bag of the mixture. But it would be nice to have the pink, the green, and the orange separated. So I'm going to do that. But really, really it's a pretty plant. It's a pretty, pretty plant. Here we have the Napa Rose Blush. Delicious tomato. Really sweet. For me, they're not quite as prolific as some of the other ones. They do grow in clusters. It says here dark pink morsels grow in clusters. Harvest entire clusters or pick individual fruit. So they do grow in clusters, which I like cherry tomatoes that grow like that. And so I'll definitely be growing these again this year. The white currant tomato is one of my favorite cherry tomatoes, and it is probably the most prolific, tied with another one that you'll see in my garden. This is another one where the seeds seem to overwinter here if they drop in the right place. So I always have volunteers of these growing. So last year, I think I didn't even plant any of these seeds, and I had a ton of white currant tomatoes. But I will be I will be planting these again this year. They're really, really delicious. Very, very sweet. And they're not, for me, they're not true white. They actually grow like pale yellow as shown here, but they all called a white tomato. Love these. Love, love, love them. Very, very sweet. This is a beautiful cherry tomato or grape tomato to grow in the garden. It has that shape like those tiger tomatoes. This is the Brad's Atomic Grape. They are so pretty. And you can see here, unripened, they have more of a yellow color. And when they ripen, they get, they change in color. It says here, a new release from Wild Boar Farms, crack resilient cherries and totally wild Technicolor shades and stripes. Extraordinarily sweet, just amazing. And I've grown these every season since 2020 and will continue to. They're just beautiful. Next, we have the Sweetheart cherry tomatoes, and these do have a little bit of a heart shape. These grew really well for me, very prolific, and just really, really pretty cherry tomatoes. I was able to save some of these cherry tomato seeds, but I did buy a couple packs of these because I just thought they were so pretty. And I think I started one of these for my indoor garden also. But this one here says 60 days after transplanting. They were one of the earliest cherries to ripen for me. This cherry tomato is packed with sweetness and rich berry-like flavor. It is quite crisp, and the fruit can keep on the extra long vine, making it extra high in sugar. These little strawberry-shaped jewels are wildly prolific. Little snacking tomatoes resist cracking. And they really did. I have very little cracking with these, even with all the rain this past season, where a lot of the cherry tomatoes, after 2 days of raining, they would just split. This plant just held up beautifully. And so I'm excited to grow these again. Here we have another Napa. This is the Napa Chardonnay tomato. This is another kind of whitish tomato. Very, very sweet, really delicious. I love them, not as much as the white cherry. They don't grow quite as abundantly for me, but still just a top pick for a cherry tomato. It says here a mutation from Napa Rose Blush, which I grow, sweet yellow cherries. Many say it's the very best cherry type they've ever tasted. So yeah, it really is delicious and abundant. And so I really love this tomato. Looking forward to growing it again. This is the Isis Candy Cherry. Love this tomato too. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. So prolific for me. This one here, it says a favorite of the kids. Round 1-inch fruit in varying shades and blush patterns of reds to yellow. Outstandingly sweet. They are very sweet. And again, just beautiful to look at in the garden. We have the blueberries tomato. This is another one that can be tricky. when harvesting to taste. If you pick them too early, they are a little sour. But if you pick them at the right time, not that they're sour, they're not as sweet. But if you pick these at the peak of ripeness, they are so sweet and just beautiful. They're beautiful throughout their whole growing phase. It says here, amethyst blue cherries turning deep red when shaded in elongated clusters. Plants yield all season, and they grow well all season. I've grown these all 4 seasons here in my Minnesota garden and will continue to. Beautiful. This is another one that freezes really well and makes a really delicious cherry tomato sauce from frozen. Here we have the Chadwick cherry tomato. This was one of the first cherry tomatoes that I grew here also back in 2020. It says here, developed by the late horticultural expert Alan Chadwick, large vines set huge yields and 1 ounce sweet cherries, disease-resistant plants too. And they are prolific. They are very, very sturdy cherry tomato plants, and they fruit and grow all season. And this is another one that I freeze. It freezes beautifully and cooks up into stews and sauces really nicely from frozen. These last 3 are 3 of my favorites along with the white cherry. The purple Bumblebee tomato, probably the most prolific. It's tied maybe with that white cherry. But this one here grows amazingly. One of the first and one of the last for me to harvest throughout the season. It says here, slightly elongated with little cherries, outrageously striped, and lime green and bronzy purple, sweet complex flavor. The plant doesn't get too like big and wily, and they produce so many fruit on a single plant. It's wonderful. I love them, and I will continue to grow them in my garden. This pink Bumblebee tomato, again, it grows like the purple Bumblebee. They look similar. They grow similarly, just a different color. And this one has that color texture. I don't know if you've ever grown the largest called a solar flare tomato. Kind of looks like that with the striping. It says here, early yielder, yes indeed. Stunning cherries, vibrant fire engine red with golden orange striping, bright and sweet flavor. So good, just fresh in the garden, but mostly I use these in salads. And then the final cherry tomato I'm selecting as a must grow for 2025 is the Sunrise Bumblebee tomato. So again, I have the purple, I have the pink, and then I have the Sunrise Bumblebee. And again, prolific, delicious, sweet. This description here says luminous swirls of reds and oranges inside the oblong cherries and out. Sweet, fruity taste. And again, just a favorite. I love the Bumblebee tomatoes. I think that's a great line of tomatoes, of cherry tomatoes. So now as we wrap up, I'm going to just go into some images of, tomato, especially cherry tomatoes that I've grown and harvested throughout the last 4 years of growing a garden here at home in Minnesota Zone 4.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on